Hello, we are live. Hello, and welcome to another Monday, Colorful Inspiration Monday. And I'm saying hello. Today's gonna be a little bit different. I hope everyone can hear me. So let me just check my sound. Hello? Okay. I can hear myself. Okay, great. So again, today's gonna be a little bit different. You guys, please pray for Ivy. Um, she will not be here today as she is not feeling well today. Hello, T. How are you? Happy Monday. Hope you have a great week this week. Hello, Anfield. Thank you. Thank you both for being here. So again, you guys, if you can say a prayer for Ivy, she is feeling under the weather today, and so I thought, well, I'll just still go ahead and still do the live even though she's not here, and we are a team. So anyways, again, I have the email in the chat as always. I'm about to pin it right now. If you need anything from us, or if you need to, have a suggestion or a comment or anything that you want to that you don't want to put in the chat that you might want us to hear, just go ahead and email us. Our email is colorful.inspire.ation@gmail.com. And again, remember that both me and Ivy both can see that email. So make sure it's not, nothing too private that you don't want the other one. Make sure that it's something that we both can read. Okay. So let's see what else is going on. Hmm. I hope everybody is um preparing for their Christmas that's coming up. If you celebrate it, we got like a little bit over a week left before it's here. And I hope that no one is stressing out about the Christmas. Christmas is whatever you make it, and you can just do your own thing. I feel like uh, Christmas is whatever you make it for you and your family. So don't worry about what other people are doing. Just do you and enjoy the family time. That's what I would say for Christmas. But I hope everyone has a great Christmas. Even though next week will be on Ivy's channel on Monday, we will be doing that live. And then the following Monday, which is the 29th, we will not be live. Because that's gonna be our vacation day that we're gonna take. But next Monday we will be live, and we'll be Ivy. We'll be on Ivy's channel. So let's get started. And so last week and let me tell you this also. I'm going to be behind the camera today just because usually there's two of us, and one of us will be doing our craft and coloring. And then while, like me, I like to, while I'm doing my lessons, I don't craft at the same time because I'm focused on what I'm saying and reading. And so Ivy usually does the crafting. And since she's not here, there's nothing to really show you guys. So I'm just gonna have my butterfly avatar up, and so hope you don't mind it. There's nothing really to see today, but you can just listen. So hopefully it's not bothering you or anything, and then you can just listen while I go over Genesis. So we left off at Genesis 7, chapter 7. And so prior to chapter 7, is when God had commanded Noah to start building the ark, because he was tired of the humans that he created. He felt like, you know, um, the humans that were made of his image were evil, and they weren't doing things right. And so he said their thoughts and everything was just corrupt, and he was sick of it, and he was just so unhappy with the humans. So he wanted to take away the whole earth, start over again. And that included the animals too. And so he told Noah to just save two of each animal, a male and a female, so that the earth could, after the flood, he was going to start everything over. And so he only saved Noah and his wife and his three sons and their wives. So he told them to get on the boat, and Noah built the boat exactly how God had told him to do it. So God had already knew the measurements of the boat, how to put the boat together to survive um the flood, because it flooded for 40 days and 40 nights. Okay. And so it was like lots of water, and he only God could have told him how to do that so that it could survive, the flood. Um, Heavy rain pouring, torrential winds, and all that stuff. He destroyed everything. And then not only that, after the flood, um, we'll go into that now. Okay. So when everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, "Go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people on the earth, I can see that you alone are righteous." So Noah was basically very obedient to God, and that's why God had a lot of trust in Noah. Hello, Rudy. Um, and so God God felt that he was the only righteous one. That's why he let him handle this job, because he knew that Noah would listen to him, and just Noah had a lot of respect for him. And so that's why he decided to save Noah and let him do this. So take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for you for eating and for sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the other. Also, take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and a female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on earth after the flood. 7 days from now, I will make the rain pour down on earth, and it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights until I have wiped the earth of all living things that I have created. So Noah had 7 days to get the animals and get their food, the animals that they were going to eat, the animals they were going to sacrifice, and the animals that they were going to save onto the boat. But the amazing thing was is that Noah did not have to go into the land and find these things. God sent the animals to Noah. Okay. So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him to do. And that's why God loved him so much. Okay, so it talks about in chapter 7 how Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. Um and so he went on board to the boat to escape the flood, him and his wife and his sons and their wives, like I was telling you guys earlier. Um so after the 7 days, the waters of the flood came and covered the earth. Um So on the 17th day of the second month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day, Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons. Um, and remember, it just talks about again how there was, two of every animal, representing every living thing that breathes. Um, and then the Lord closed the door for them. So in my other Bible, it was saying how they compared that to how God allows us to come to him, like as they were letting like how God was allowing everything to come onto the boat, and then God shut the door. So there's going to come a time like now God is allowing everybody to make the choice to decide to be with him, like, and then at some point God is going to shut the door, and no one else will be able to come into to him. So they gave a reference of that. So I thought that was nice. That was a good meaning. Um, so for 40 days, the flood waters grew deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on earth died: birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurried along the ground, and all the people. Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth: people, livestock, small animals, the birds in the sky, everything. All were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat. And the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. So after the 40 days and 40 nights, there was an additional 150 days that the waters just sat there. Okay, but God remembered Noah and all the wildlife and livestock with him in the boat. And he sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the flood waters began to recede. The underground waters stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. So the flood waters gradually rescinded from the earth. After 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time that the flood began, the boat came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Ararat. We're at chapter 8, and you can read about it there. 2.5 months later, as the waters continued to go down, other mountain peaks became visible. So this wasn't just a simple thing where it just flooded and then now God just took all the water away. No, it took time. It took time for the water to go down, and Noah's waited patiently, and God told him exactly how much food, how many animals, to bring on for food to keep them their family fed and stuff like that on the boat. So um everything's just taking its time. Noah wasn't in any rush or anything like that. So um so another after another 40 days, so after the 100 after the 2.5 months later, the waters continue to go down, and they can start seeing the mountain peaks at that point. um and then another 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the flood waters on earth had dried up. Okay. He also released a dove to see if the water had receded, and if and it could find dry land. But the dove couldn't find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat, and Noah held his hand out and drew the dove back inside. And so now Noah is using the dove bird, to 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 tell him whether or not it's safe to come off the boat, whether or not the earth is livable. So after waiting another 7 days, Noah released the dove again. This time the dove returned to him in the evening with the fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the flood waters were almost gone. So then he waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time the dove did not return back. So now Noah was 101. So this took a whole year basically for this process to happen. So on the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began, the flood waters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. So 2 more months went by, and at last the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the birds, the livestock, and the small animals that scurrying around the ground." so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth. So Noah and his wife and his sons and their wives left the boat, and all of the animals and the birds came out the boat, pair by pair. And so Noah again was patient. He did release the birds to check the everything, but he still waited for God to tell him when it was time to leave the boat. So he still was listening and being um respectful of God's words. So Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and birds that had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice and said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of the human race. Even though everything they think and imagine is bent towards evil from childhood, I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night. So again, we don't have to worry about there being another flood like this in the future, because God says it right here that he will never do that again. Um and that was an agreement he made with Noah, because of Noah's sacrifice, that he did with the animals. So God promised that he would never destroy the earth in that way. Not saying that he won't come back for the earth, because we all know that he is coming back, but he's not going to come back in this way. So then God blessed Noah and his sons and told him, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, all the animals of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you in fear and terror. So he basically put Noah in charge, and he's saying that all the animals are going to fear humans. Okay. Fear and be afraid. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grains and vegetables. So that's how he's saying, you can eat animals, for food and things like that. Hi, Linda. Um, but you must never eat any meat that still has the life blood in it. Hmm. So what exactly does that mean? Let's look that up. What does lifeblood? Let me see if that what comes up. Okay. So it's instructing people to not consume blood with meat, because the blood is the life. So we're not supposed to eat meat with blood in it. The command emphasizes the sanctity of life, requiring that blood be drained from meat and poured out rather than eating, as a sign of respect for life itself. Okay. So yeah, we're not supposed to eat bloody food. Okay. So I just needed to get that clear. I didn't even see that to look that up prior. But anyways, so yeah, we're not supposed to eat bloody food, or food with blood. Make sure, like, basically that it's cooked, the blood is poured out, rinsed out, etc. Um okay. And I will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If a wild animal kills a person, it must die. And anyone who murders a fellow human must die. If anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. For God made human beings in his own image. Now be fruitful and multiply and repopulate the earth. Then God told Noah and his sons, I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants. So again, you see how like if a bear eats a human, they do put the bear down. Or if a dog, like a pit bull or something, eats a human, they will take that animal's life. I've heard of that. And also, thou should not kill. That's one of the commandments. So if you do that, you do have to answer to God. It says it right here. And also, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's a saying that I always hear too. So if you take a person's life, your life will be taken too. That's what it sounds like to me that he's saying right here. And I find that to be true in um today's life. Again, he confirms his covenant with Noah and his descendants and with all the animals that were on the boat. So never again will flood waters kill any living creatures. Never again will the flood destroy the earth. So, and then God said, I'm giving you a sign of my covenant with all living creatures and for all the generations. And the sign that it says, I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my covenant with you and with all the earth. So when we see the rainbows, like after good rain or, things like that, when we see that rainbow, that's a reminder of God's covenant with us, with the earth, with the animals, with all the creatures, with everyone, with Noah, his descendants, and that's us. Um, and that's him. That's just reminding us of his promise that he would never destroy the land like he did. Then I will send clouds over the earth. The rainbow will appear in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you. So, um, never again will the flood waters destroy all life. And when I see the rainbow in the clouds, now this is God saying when he sees the rainbows, he will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth. And that includes us. Then God said to Noah, yes, this rainbow is a sign of the covenant, and I'm confirming with all the creatures on earth. Okay. So then it goes into talking about Noah's sons. Um, then the sons were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And so you can read further about the sons. But one of the things that happened with the son is Noah kind of embarrassed himself a little, well, a lot. The sons of Noah who came off the boat with their father, there was three of them, which I just told you. And so they were the only ones who populated the earth at the time after the flood. Noah began to cultivate the ground and he planted a vineyard. Okay. So one day he drank some of the wine he had made and he became drunk and he laid naked inside of his tent. So Ham, one of his kids, saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his other two brothers. So Ham went and told Shem and Japheth. But Shem and Japheth took a robe and held it over their shoulders, and they backed into the tent to cover their father. Um, as they did this, they looked the other way so they wouldn't see him naked. So when Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. So he was mad at Ham for going to tell the other brothers about him being drunk and being naked in the tent. And so because of that, he cursed Canaan, which was Ham's son. So he said, may Canaan be cursed. May he be the lowest of servants of his relatives. Then Noah said, may the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed. And may Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territory of Japheth. And he wanted Japheth to share the prosperity of Shem. So Shem and Japheth, who, didn't look at their naked father or think it was and try to cover for him, who did cover for him, he sent out blessings and prosperity to them, and he sent a curse to Ham's son. And Noah lived for another 350 years after the great flood. So totally, he lived for 950 years and then he died, which is crazy to think of living to be 950 years old, because nowadays we don't live that long because of Adam and Eve eating out the tree of knowledge. That was one of the curses that God said, is y'all's doing too much. So from going forward, I'm not letting y'all live this long lives like that anymore. You're only gonna live at the most, I believe it was 120 years. So that's why we don't see these long years of life like they used to live back in the day, back in these days. But 950 years old before Noah died. Um, so this is the count of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the three sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the great flood. Okay, so then it talks about the Noah's kids' descendants, and Japheth, and Ham, and Shem, and their kids. So you can read that in chapter 10. Okay. So in conclusion, they arranged, okay, so each of the different sons, they like migrated into different parts of the earth, according to the line of descendants. And so all the nations on earth descended from these clans after the great flood. So everybody came from these guys. They basically, had kids, and their kids had kids, and that's how, people began. So the Tower of Babel. At one time, all the people on the earth spoke the same language and used the same words. As people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia and settled there. They began saying to each other, "Let's make bricks and harden them with fire." Okay. And then they said, "Come, let's build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the sky. This will make us famous and keep us from being shattered all over the earth." But the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower the people were building. "Look," he said, "the people are united and they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other. In that way, the Lord shattered them all over the world and they stopped building the city. This is why the city was called Babel, because that is where the Lord confused the people with different languages. In this way, he scattered them all over the world. Okay. So God confused the languages to stop humanity's unified, prideful rebellion against his command to spread out and fill the earth. So because they weren't he wanted them to spread out to fill the earth, but they were trying to do their own thing. They were trying to gather in this one city, be unified together in this one city. They're going to build their own city and try to be stuck there. And that's not what God wanted them to do. So he put a wrench in it. So basically, um, that's why made them he made them scatter out and made them have different languages, you know, so that they wouldn't all be the same. And that's how it is today. We're all scattered out. We're all, we talk different languages. And so this is how it all began because God wanted it that way. Um, so he was forcing them to scatter into different nations with diverse tongues, thereby establishing linguistic diversity as a consequence of disobedience. Okay. So that happened because they didn't listen. So if they would have just spread out, we probably all would have still had the same language. But because they were trying to do their own thing, God made them be confused. He put the confusion in there and made them have different languages. Okay. So at the end of chapter 11, it goes back into talking about um, Noah's children again and their ages and how long they lived for and things like that. So, if you want to learn more about that, you can read more about that at the end of chapter 11. Okay. All right. All right. So, um I wrote down here that so Terah was the father of Abram, Norah, and Haran. And Haran was the father of Lot. But Haran died. And meanwhile, Abram and Nara both married. And it says that the name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Noah's wife was Malka. And Malka and her sister Itka were daughters of Nair's brother Haran. But Sarah was unable to become pregnant and had no children. So I wrote down that Nora married his brother's daughter. So I thought that was crazy. I must have thought that that was weird because I wrote it down. Um, so I read that at the end of chapter 11, so you can read about that too. So the Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who treat you with contempt. Contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Okay. So these are Shem's kids. Okay. So Noah had a son named Shem, and these are Shem's kids. Okay. So so all the families on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his wealth, his livestock, and all the people who had taken into his household at Haran. They headed to the land of Canaan. Where they arrived in Canaan, Abram traveled through the land as far as Shechem. There he set up camp besides the oak of Moreh. And at that time, the area was inhabited by Canaanites. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your descendants." And Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord, who had appeared to him. After that, Abram traveled south and set up camps in the hill country. with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built another altar and dedicated it to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord. Then Abram continued traveling south by stages towards Negev. So at that time, a severe famine struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt, where he lived as a foreigner. As he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, "Look, you are a very beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife. Let's kill him. Then we can have her. So please tell them you are my sister. Then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you.'" And sure enough, when Abram arrived in Egypt, everyone noticed Sarai's beauty. When the palace officials saw her, they sang her praises to Pharaoh, their king, and Sarai was taken into his palace. When Pharaoh gave Abram many gifts because of her: sheep, goat, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord sent terrible plagues upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarah, Adam's wife. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and accused him sharply. "What have you done to me?" he demanded. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister and allow me to take her as my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and get out of here." Pharaoh ordered some of the men to escort them, and he sent Abram out of the country along with his wife and all his possessions. And that happened because, again, God had said that anybody that did him wrong, came against him, he would, he would have a problem with them. And so, because Pharaoh took Abram's wife as his own, then God cursed them. God made him sick. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north into the Nubi along with his wife and Lot and all that they owned. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver and gold. From the Nubi, they continued traveling by stages towards Bethel, and they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai, where they had camped before. This was the same place where Abram had built the altar, and there he worshiped the Lord again. So Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also became very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goat and herds of cattle and many tents. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Adam and Lot. At that time, Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Finally, Abram said to Lot, "Let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want the land to the left, then I'll take the land to the right. If you prefer the land to the right, then I'll go to the left." Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like a garden of the Lord, or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flock and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom and settled among the cities of the plain. But the people of the area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. After Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, "Look as far as you can see in every direction, north and south, east and west. I'm giving all this land as far as you can see. to you and your descendants as a permanent possession. And I will give you so many descendants that, like the dust on the earth, you cannot be counted. They cannot be counted. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I'm giving it to you. So Abram moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. There he built another altar to the Lord. So he's steadily sacrificing, building altars and sacrificing to the Lord, and the Lord is blessing him, making him rich. I mean, he's sowing into the Lord, and the Lord is just giving him just all the desires. Okay, so about this time, war breaks out in the region. The king of Babylon, so it's a lot of kings. You guys can read at the beginning of chapter 14. So for 12 years, they had been subject to um King Kedorlaomer, but in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. 1 year later, Kedorlaomer and his allies arrived and defeated the other kings. Okay. So as the kings were fighting, there were 4 kings against 5. And as it happened, the valley of Death Sea was filled with their tar pits. And as the army of the kings of Sodom and Goliath fled, some fell into the tar pits, while the rest escaped into the mountains. The victorious invaders then plundered Sodom and Gomorrah and headed for home, taking with them all the spoils of the war and the food supply. They also captured Lot, Abram's nephew, who lived in Sodom, and carried off everything he owned. So after that big fight, they robbed Lot. But one of Lot's men escaped and reported everything to Abram, the Hebrew, who was living near the oak grove belonging to Mamre, the Amorite, Mamre, and his relatives. They were Abram's ally. So one of Lot's people um ran to go tell Abram and Abram's ally. So then Abram learned that his nephew Lot had been captured. He mobilized the 318 trained men who had been born into his household. Then he pursued the king's army until he caught up with them at Dan. There he divided his men and attacked during the night. So the king's army fled, but Abram chased them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. Abram recovered all the goods that had been taken from Lot, and he brought back his nephew Lot with his possessions and all the women and all the other captives. So, so after Abram returned from victory over the king and all the allies, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley. And the king of Sodom and the priest of the God Most High brought Abram some bread and wine. And Melchizedek blessed Abram with this blessing. So he blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and bless the God Most High, who has defeated your enemies for you. And Abram gave Melchizedek a tenth of all the goods he had recovered. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give back my people who were captured, but you may keep for yourself all the goods you have recovered." So they wanted their people back. They didn't want the material things. They just wanted their people that were captured. But Abram replied to the king of Sodom, I solemnly swear to the Lord, God most high, creator on the earth and heaven, that I will not take so much as a single thread or sandal thong from what belongs to you. Otherwise, you might say, I'm the one who made Abram rich. I will accept only that my young warriors have already eaten, and I request that you give a fair share of the goods to my allies. So he didn't want nothing from them because he didn't want them to be able to say that they did anything for him. He said, instead, share it with the allies, the ones who helped him. So, chapter 15. Sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you and your reward will be great. But Abram replied, O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, a servant in my household will inherit all my wealth. You have given me no descendants of my own, so none of my servants will be my heir. So one of my servants will be my heir. Then the Lord said to him, no, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have. And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. When the Lord told him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land as your possession. But Abram replied, oh, sovereign Lord, how can I be sure that I will actually possess it? The Lord told him, bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So Abram presented all these to him and killed them. But he cut each animal down the middle and laid the halves side by side. He did not, however, cut the birds in half. Some vultures swooped down to eat the carcass, but Abram chased them away. As the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a terrifying darkness came down over him. Then the Lord said to Abram, you can be sure that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land. There will be oppressed as slaves for 400 years. But I will punish the nation that enslaved them, and in the end they will come away with great wealth. As for you, you will die in peace and be buried in a ripe old age. After 4 generations, or descendants will return here to the land, for the sin of the Amorites did not yet warrant their destruction. After the sun went down and the darkness fell, Abram saw a smoking fire pot, and the flaming torch passed between the halves of the carcass. So the Lord made a covenant with Abram that day and said, I have given this land to your descendants, all the way from the border of Egypt to the great Euphrates River, and the land now occupied by the Kenites, Kenizzites, all those people. There's a lot of them. So you can read about that at the end of chapter 15. So with that, we're going to stop right there. And we're going to continue on chapter 16 next. And that will be after the new year. Now, don't forget, you guys, that next week we'll be at Ivy's on the 22nd. On the 29th, we will not be going live. And then we will be back live on the 6th of January. And that's where we'll pick up on Genesis 16th on the 6th of January. So, I want to thank you all for whoever hears this reading. Um, whoever catches this on the replay, whoever was in the live today, I just thank God for you all. I ask God to bless you all and be with you all. I hope you all have a great holiday, a great rest of December. And I just want to thank you all for stopping in and checking on the channel and checking on Inspiration Monday. We are still here. We're still going strong. And yeah, thank you very much. I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day. And I'll see you next week. Also, don't forget that Ivy will be live on Thursday at 7 Central Standard Time. Usually, you can check her wall. She'll usually puts a post up or something on her wall to remind you guys about it. So yeah, with that being said, you guys have a good day. Bye.